Hi everyone, Luke here from Weekend Tour Pros. We're back again in the studio at City Golf in Chichester today, and today we're filming another ball review. But this time it's something a little bit different. We're testing a direct-to-consumer golf ball, the Seed SD-01 third generation golf ball. Now Seed claim, and they've got the robot testing evidence to back this up, that this golf ball can compete against the Titleist Pro V1 but at a much cheaper price point. Also, by posting it through to your door, you don't even have the hassle of going down the golf shop to buy your golf balls. So let's put those claims to the test and see how it performs in the hands of a mid-handicap, average swing speed golfer against the Titleist Pro V1 and see if it really is as good as Seed claim. Let's get stuck in. Okay, we'll get straight back to the studio in a second, but before we do, I just want to tell you a bit of information about the Seed SD-01 third generation golf ball. As always, I think it's really important to tell you a little bit about the construction of the golf ball so you know what to look out for as we get into the test. First things first, this golf ball is a three-piece cast urethane cover golf ball, exactly like lots of the other premium golf balls out on the market today, including the Titleist Pro V1 that we'll be comparing against head-to-head today. In terms of its feel, they say Seed that it's a soft feeling golf ball, but interestingly the compression rating of this golf ball is about 95, which does mean it's firmer than a Pro V1 at 87 and very comparable to lots of the other premium golf balls out on the market today. And I wouldn't typically say that they're soft feeling, so it'll be really interesting to see how it does feel when we start hitting shots in a minute in the bay. In terms of what we can expect in terms of performance, Seed tell us that in terms of iron control, we can expect to see some hit and spin. Not exactly sure what that means, but I'm expecting it to therefore spin maybe quite high, similar to a Pro V1. They do talk about some high short game spin, and in terms of the launch angle, trajectory and compression, they do say you're going to get tour level performance. Now, not exactly sure what that means. When you compare the Seed SD-01 to the other golf balls that Seed make, they're a bit more descriptive and a little bit more specific in terms of what they expect you to get out of the trajectory of the other golf balls than they do with the SD-01, but I can only assume that the Pro V1 being the #1 ball on tour, we can assume it's going to deliver a very consistent ball flight to the Pro V1, so that's something for us to watch out for when we get into the test. In terms of colorway options, you guys seem to love golf balls that are available in yellow, and I'm pleased to say that the Seed SD-01 comes in both a white and a yellow option as well. And in terms of its price point, this is the reason I wanted to test a direct-to-consumer golf ball, because they always come out at a fantastic price point where you're taking the middleman out of the equation. The Seed is no different in that regard. If you buy into their subscription model where you get 12 golf balls delivered to your house every 1 to 3 months, they come in at £25 a dozen. If you decide to pay as you go, they do start at £30 a dozen, but they can come down to £25 a dozen if you buy multiple dozen at the same time. That makes it a fantastic price point and means that if it does deliver premium performance to match that premium construction, what you are going to be doing is getting premium golf balls at the price of an entry-level golf ball, and that's absolutely fantastic. So I'm really keen to see if it can keep up with that Pro V1 that's almost double the price. So let's get back to the fitting bay and let's start the test. Right, so you've got all the information on the Seed SD-01 golf ball. Let me just tell you for 30 seconds how we're going to do the test. If you've watched a ball review on my channel before, exactly the same as all of the other tests that we've done. We're going to start with a 20-yard pitch shot with a 60-degree wedge to test that short game performance. We're then going to move up to full shots with a pitching wedge, 7-iron and driver. After each batch of shots, I'll tell you my initial feels in the bay before going home and talking you through all the TrackMan data before moving on to the next part of the test. Let's get set up and let's start hitting some shots. Okay, so just done hitting the 20-yard pitch shot with the 60-degree wedge, And first impressions are that I think the numbers are going to be very, very similar here. Again, with a 20-yard pitch shot, my strike is the overriding variable as a handicap golfer, so it'll be interesting to see what the numbers show. But the only difference I can maybe tell between the balls, because they felt very, very similar as well, is the sound. The seed definitely sounded a little bit louder and a little bit clippier, but it was a really nice sound. I really enjoyed the sound of it as I was hitting it. And I do think we always need to remember that when I'm indoors in a studio, the sounds are amplified as well, so it probably is more noticeable here than it would be out on the golf course. But yeah, really keen to get home and look at those numbers and see if there really is much difference between these two golf balls in this part of the test. So you just heard me say in the bay there that I really struggled to notice a difference between these two golf balls in this part of the test as I was hitting the shots, and the numbers back that up. If we take a deep dive into the numbers, you can see that my club head speed, ball speed and smash factor are very, very similar with both of these golf balls. We can see that the Pro V1 does spin a fraction more in this part of the test. We're talking about less than 200 revs of spin though, and again I think that is a really, really comparable test and shows that the Seed is a high spinning golf ball in the short game to even be keeping up with the Pro V1. In terms of the launch characteristics, we can see a fraction difference here, but I really am nitpicking. You can see that the Seed ball launches about 1.3 degrees more and the land angle is about 1.4 degrees steeper as it lands on the green, but the peak heights were the same. So that would suggest that the ball flight with the Seed was a tiny bit more loopier than maybe it was with the Pro V1, but that didn't make any difference to the carry number and the total distance. You can see there's 0.1 yards in it in the carry distance, and the total distance are exactly the same. So for me personally, looking at these two balls side by side, I can definitely say that the Seed is keeping up with the Pro V1. Let's see if that continues in the pitching wedge. It sounds nice. Okay, so done hitting the batch of shots with the pitching wedges there, and first impressions in the bay are that the Seed golf balls really impressed me actually. The consistency of spin that I was seeing on the numbers behind me was really noticeable. I do think it's slightly lower spinning than the highest spinning shots I hit with the Pro V1, but we're talking by 100 or 200 revs. But in terms of ball speeds, carry distances, it was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed the sound of it as well with the pitching wedge, and the one thing that's confused me a little bit is it is a firmer golf ball than the Pro V1, but it feels just as soft, if not a little bit softer. Now I don't know if that's to do with the sounds as well as the feels, but it was something I really noticed is it felt fantastic, and I don't normally like a firm golf ball, so really keen to see if that carries on as we move up through the golf bag. But yeah, it's really impressed me at this part of the test. So let's go home and look at the numbers and see if that backs up the feels that I'm having. So I'm really pleased to say that now that I've got home and looked at the data, the Seed golf ball is still really impressing me after the pitching wedge part of the test. Let's take a deep dive into those numbers. Starting on the left-hand side, you can see that my club head speed with both of these balls was virtually identical, only 0.1 mile an hour of difference in it, but I was able to generate an additional 1.3 mile an hour of ball speed with the Seed golf ball when compared to the Pro V1, and as a result my smash factor with the Seed golf ball was a little bit higher. Now as an amateur golfer, that's exactly what I want to see because I need as much help to generate ball speed as I possibly can. If we move across to the spin rate, it's a very similar picture to what we saw with the 20-yard pitch shot. The Seed golf ball at 6825 is spinning around 200 revs less than the Pro V1 at 7052. But the one thing I do want to call out here is just look at the consistency of the spin rate of the Seed golf ball compared to the Pro V1. At 222 revs of standard deviation, it outperformed the Pro V1 in this part of the test using a pitching wedge in my hands, which is absolutely fantastic work from the Seed golf ball. In terms of ball flights, we can see that the launch angle, the peak height and the land angle are all slightly higher with the Seed golf ball versus the Pro V1. So what does that all mean in terms of distance? Well, the carry distance with the Seed golf ball at 118.3 is 2.4 yards longer than the 115.9 yards that I was able to get out of the Pro V1. So the Seed is also a longer golf ball in this part of the test in my hands. But the really interesting bit, the difference between the carry number and the total number with both of these golf balls in this part of the test was exactly 5.5 yards. So the stopping power with both of these golf balls in my hands was absolutely identical. The Seed achieved that with a fraction less spin, but slightly higher descent angle, allowing it to stop a bit quicker. And then the Pro V1 did it by a slightly more tour preferred ball flight, but with a fraction more spin that allowed the ball to stop a little bit quicker on the green. Really good numbers from the seed. Let's see if that continues as we move up to the 7-iron. Okay, so just done hitting the batch of shots with a 7-iron. Definitely getting a bit of a sweat on where it is warm in the bay here today. First impressions are from the 7-iron. Bit of the test is that the seed is a little bit faster, a fraction more ball speed with the seed, but it is a fraction lower spinning than the Pro V1. But we do need to get home and dive into that data just to confirm those feels are backed up in the numbers. In terms of how the ball feels, it's still continuing what I felt with the pitching wedge. It definitely feels a little bit softer than the compression rating would suggest, and I am really enjoying hitting it, and I think it's making a really nice sound as well, so hoping that's going to continue as we move up to the driver. But let's first dive into those 7-iron numbers. So let's deep dive into those 7-iron numbers now, and the first thing we need to address is that claim that I had in the bay that the seed was a faster golf ball in this part of the test. In fact, it wasn't. They're exactly the same, and let's show you that with the data. First of all, you can see that my club head speed with the seed was 0.4 mile an hour faster, and that's the reason why we were able to get a bit more ball speed out of it at 107.3 versus 106.6. But you can see that the smash factor with both of these balls with the 7-iron at 1.41 was absolutely identical, meaning that both of these balls are just as fast as each other in my hands with a 7-iron. We have seen a really consistent pattern otherwise throughout the rest of the test as what we saw with the pitching wedge, starting with the spin rate. At 4.221, the spin rate with the seed is about 240 revs less than the 4.463 that we got with the Pro V1. That might have extended to about 300 revs of difference if the ball speeds were the same, but at this part of the test we can see it's about 240 revs of difference. Once again though, the spin consistency of the seed golf ball has absolutely blown my mind. Look at that, 56 revs of difference between the highest spinning and the lowest spinning shot in the batch of shots that I hit. I think we've got 10 or 11 7-irons here, so for me to see that spin consistency is absolutely mind-blowing. The Pro V1 is famed for how consistent its spin rate is, and it's outperformed it once again, and the spin rate consistency on the Pro V1 is also mind-blowing in this part of the test, so credit to Seed Golf for making their ball spin really, really consistently. In terms of ball flights, we can see that the launch angle is once again higher with the seed at 18.8 versus 17.7. The peak height of 76 feet is 5 feet higher than we saw with the Pro V1, and that land angle into the green at 42.6 was 1.4 degrees steeper than we got with the Pro V1 at 41.2. So what does this all mean in terms of distance? Well, once again, the seed is a longer golf ball in my hands than the Pro V1, 153.4 yards of carry versus exactly 150 yards with the Pro V1, so 3.4 yards of additional carry distance. Now, the thing that really did impress me here though with the 7-iron is if we compare the difference between the carry number and the total number, which is effectively our stopping power, the seed has actually outperformed the Pro V1 here. You can see that the difference between the 153.4 and 166.1 with the seed is 12.7 yards of stopping power versus 12.9 yards with the Pro V1. We're talking fractions here, but the fact of the matter is we've got a direct-to-consumer golf ball that's able to stop quicker on the greens in my hands than the Pro V1, which is one of the best golf balls on the market. Great job, seed. Let's see if that continues with the driver. Okay, so just finished hitting the batch of shots with the driver, and First thing I want to say is the feels of the Seed all the way through this test, it just felt absolutely fantastic. I really do enjoy the feel of this golf ball, and I could definitely game it on the course based on the feel alone. In terms of the numbers with the driver, my gut feeling in the bay is that both of these balls are really comparable. I was struggling to notice a difference between them. The only thing I noticed in the bay is I was getting a little bit tired with the second batch of shots with the Seed, and as a result my club head speed was down a little bit, and I think so is the carry number. So we'll have to just bear that in mind when we look at the data. But I think comparable shot for comparable shot, there's absolutely nothing in these two golf balls with the driver. But let's take a look at that data now and see if it backs up those feels. Let's finish the data deep dives by looking at those driver numbers. I'm pleased to say that actually I wasn't swinging the Seed as slow as I felt like I was in the bay, and the numbers are really comparable once again. My club head speed 89.8 versus 89.9, only 0.1 mile an hour in it. There was 0.8 mile an hour of difference in ball speed in favour of the Pro V1, but because of that slightly faster club head speed, you can see that the smash factor with both of these golf balls at 1.47 is absolutely identical. So once again, in this part of the test, we can say that both of these balls are just as fast as each other. With a driver, we always talk about high launch, low spin, and we can see that here that the Seed is once again launched on a higher window than the Pro V1, like it has done throughout most parts of the test. However, the Pro V1 is slightly lower spinning in this part of the test at 2748 versus 2984, and it's a really interesting observation of all the ball reviews that I've done where I've used the Pro V1 as the benchmark. This happens every single time that the Pro V1 has just got something in its design that it's able to take off a load of spin when it comes to the driver whilst retaining it in all other parts of the bag, and that is testament to the quality of the Pro V1. Once again though, we can see the spin consistency with both of these golf balls is really good. The Pro V1 has slightly edged it this time, but again, they are really good spin consistency rates. If we just introduce the other ball flight characteristics, we can see that the peak height and the land angle with the Seed is slightly higher than with the Pro V1 at 86 feet versus 78 feet of peak height and 39.1 degrees of land angle versus 36.2. Again, a really consistent pattern of the Seed being a higher launching, higher peak height, steeper landing golf ball in all parts of the test than the Pro V1, so really consistent. What does that all mean in terms of distance with the driver? Well, what we can see here is the carry number is very similar with these two golf balls at 209.5 for the Seed versus 210.3 with the Pro V1. So the Pro V1 is a slightly longer golf ball in terms of carry, but we're talking about less than a yard. However, because of that overall package of ball flight, spin, etc., we can see that the total distance with the Pro V1 is a little bit more impressive than the Seed golf ball. 232.1 yards with the Pro V1 versus 228.4 yards with the Seed, so about 3.7 yards of difference in terms of total distance. So just before we get to the end of the video, I want to give you my concluding thoughts on the Seed SD-01 third generation golf ball. My headline summary is I absolutely love it and think Seed have done an absolutely fantastic job to deliver really consistent ball flight, spin, carry distance performance that can keep up with a Pro V1 in all four parts of this test at a fraction of the price is absolutely fantastic. That price point of £25 a dozen if you're on the subscription model or £30 if you pay as you go also means it's at a fantastic price point because this golf ball is keeping up with or outperforming many of the golf balls that I've tested that are £30, £35, £40 a dozen in price point, and the fact it's keeping up with the Pro V1 at £47.99 is a credit to the Seed golf ball. For me personally, I would like to test some of the other Seed golf balls, particularly the slightly softer premium golf ball they've got, because as you know, if you've watched any of my videos, I really do love a soft feeling golf ball, and despite the fact that I loved the feel of this golf ball, any opportunity to play something a little bit softer, I'm always going to open my arms up to. So Seed, if you're watching this video and want to send me the softer version, I'd love to put that through its paces as well. Overall though, I think the one thing I can definitely say, Seed, is all of the marketing claims that you've made, you've absolutely delivered on, and I'm really pleased that I got to test a direct-to-consumer golf ball, so thank you for giving me that opportunity. All that remains for me to say is if you've liked the video, please do consider giving it a thumbs up, and if you're not following the Weekend Tour Pros movement yet, what have you been up to? Hit that subscribe button and follow me and you'll get notified of all my videos as they land. Have a great day. Goodbye.